Hey everybody. On today's episode, I'm going to be doing a pork and apple pie, English style. Now this one comes off of an email I received. A friend of mine wanted to know how to do those raised pies that you see in all those English films and whatnot. And I said, sure, I'll do it. I was walking around the parks the other day and sort of triggered a memory of when I was in southern England near this area called New Forest. Lots of wild ponies. They run around, eating kids' ice cream, and it's a really nice agricultural area, very open, very free. And I went to this small pub there, and I had a pork and apple pie, along with some carrots sauteed in butter and a little bit of parsley. Very simple, very earthy, but the flavor, the crust, the textures, everything were really, really good. Simple, but very good. Anyways, here's my interpretation for you guys. Let's go. On today's episode, we're going to do a pork and apple pie.
Okay, so what we have here is savory. Nice little purple flowers on there. The bees love this stuff. I'm going to take some of this. We're going to use this in today's recipe. Okay, here we have a nice green onion. So we're going to take a piece of this for today's recipe. And we also have some parsley down here. I think that'll do.
The first step is to wash and clean our herbs, and then dry them off, put them on a cutting board, and slice them relatively thinly. These flavors enhance the flavor of the pork and apple. Just give it a nice little bit of zest. It's well worth doing if you have fresh herbs growing around your place. And for the apple, I'm using one Spartan apple. It's local, and it can withstand the baking process. So the first thing you do is you core the apple. Basically just push an object that's sharp enough to go through the center, remove the core, and then what we're going to do is we're going to peel it and slice it, just like this. Not too big, not too small. The flavor of a Spartan apple has enough acidity and enough sweetness to complement the pork and herbs in our pie. That's why I'm using it, but use whatever you can find locally. Most English pub pies are made with a hot water pastry. Here's how I do it. 80 grams of butter for flavor and 100 grams of shortening or lard. And we're also going to need 500 grams of flour. So the first step, put your butter in with the flour. This gives our dough a nice flavor. If it's only shortening, it doesn't taste as good. Then we're going to add about 4 grams of salt. Then we're going to put our shortening in with a cup of water. Bring it to a boil, and then we're going to add this back to our dough. Now this helps uniformly distribute the fats in with our dough, and this makes it a little crispier. It's not as tender as something that's made by hand, but this is more elastic and very crispy. So that's why you do it. It keeps the shape better. Once it's cooled down enough and starting to come together into this sort of shape, then we're going to manipulate it by hand. But just be careful, it is very hot. So roll it out on a floured surface, get it into a cylinder shape, cut a third of it off for the tops, and then we're ready to go. The first step is to make the bases for our pie. So we take our dough, flour a surface, and we're going to roll it out to the appropriate thinness. Work from the center out, as always, until you get to something that's about 1/8 of an inch thick. Then I'm going to use a cookie cutter, cut little circles, and line a cupcake mold with it. It's the best way to make small pies, but try anything else in the kitchen that has the same sort of shape. And now for the filling and the assembly of the pie. First, you need 300 grams of ground pork shoulder. There's lots of fat in there and it gives a good flavor and moisture. About 3 grams of salt to season it. And we're also going to add some dried savory, about 2 grams worth. It complements the flavors well. And then we're going to add the freshly chopped herbs that we just picked. And finally, you can't have a pork and apple pie without the apples. Here they go. And here's the fun part. Just squish it all together. And that's your pie filling. Ready to put into our little forms. And don't be afraid to pack these things right to the rim. Hot water crust is flexible and it retains its shape. You put a lid on it. You're going to put it into a preheated oven at 400 degrees for 25 minutes. Then you lower the heat to 350 for 40 minutes. And then when they're done and golden brown, you got these lovely little pork and apple pies that any pub would be proud to serve. Here I'm using some carottes à l'anglaise just as an accompaniment. Very simple, very earthy, full of flavor. Notice this crust? It's very crispy and it holds its shape. Share, like, and subscribe. Enjoy your pub. Cheers.